fact, not only is there nothing negative in it, there's an evaluation from a year ago that was satisfactory. And now we're supposed to defend a discrimination lawsuit on the ground that this person was a poor performer, and there's nothing negative in the file. Their performance management was awful under that scenario that I just described. And this is so common. Supervisors, you give them the evaluations and they don't do anything with them. And if they do it, they give everyone satisfactory. And then when we interview the supervisor and ask, well, if this person was so awful, why'd you do this? And it's like, well, I got to work with the guy every day. So I really didn't want to slam him, because then I wouldn't be able to get along with him then. So I just gave him a satisfactory. But I can assure you, if he was good, then it would say very good. Satisfactory means he's not that good. And I say, well, try explain that to the jury, who thinks satisfactory is satisfactory. So your supervisors need to know this. They need to be instructed on doing effective performance evaluations, performance management. Complaint open door procedures. Employees need to know that they have somebody they can go speak to. You don't want them turned into a union to go speak to. They want to come to your supervisors and speak to your supervisors in the first instance, and your supervisors need to know what to do when the employees come. Other things that we talk about in the training, I'll just, because I want to get to some questions, I'll just go through some of these quickly. Supervisors need to know about the impact of unionization on your organization, on your employees and your company. They should know what this is, because if they get asked by employees, they need to know what the answers are. So this is something they need to know about. They need to know the factors that contribute to unionization. Okay. What time does the tour start? Okay, good. Thank you. Facts about unions, their organization and motivation. Again, I think it's good for supervisors to know those things. What is this union's dues structure? How many members has a particular union that's active in your industry? How many members have they lost over the last few years? All this stuff is public record. We can access this stuff, and oftentimes you find out that this union has lost 5,000 members in the last 5 years. So no wonder why they're interested in these employees. And it's good for a supervisor to know that, so they can say that to the employees when the employees are asking about this union, or the supervisor hears them talking about this union. That supervisor has ready answers. So that's what we mean about facts about unions. The company's philosophy on unionization. Your supervisors need to know that your company is against unions. Well, why are we against unions? Are we against unions because we don't like unions? No, we're against unions because we don't want a third party interfering with our relationship with our employees. Okay, because unions will say to the employees that the company doesn't want us because they know that if we're here, we're going to get you higher pay and better benefits. So they don't want to pay that, so that's why they don't want us. And of course, that's not the message that we want our supervisors to be given to the employees. The message we want our supervisors to be given to the employees is that you don't want a union because it creates a wedge between the company and your employees. Right now, if an employee has a problem, they can come talk to you. If there's a union here, they can't do that any longer. They have to go to the union, and then the union representative comes to you. Okay? So if an employee needs help, a lot of times employers give employees loans, for instance. A lot of companies do that. They're having trouble paying their rent. They come in, they get a loan for a few weeks. Well, if you have a union, that's a benefit that you can't give without negotiating. So what we say to supervisors in the training is, you need to know why we don't want a union in this company. And it's not because we don't want to pay wages and benefits. It's because we don't want a wedge between us and our workers. And we give facts with which to oppose unions. That's a big part of the training as well. We also educate supervisors on what they can and cannot say. There are specific rules under the National Labor Relations Act about what employers can and cannot say. The basic rules are supervisors cannot threaten employees that something will happen to them if they bring a union in or if they vote for the union. You can't say, we're going to move the company, we're going to go out of business if you bring in a union, we're going to fire you or fire anyone else if you bring a union in. Those are threats. Those are all unlawful. Supervisors can't say those things. They can't interrogate employees about the union, meaning they can't ask employees, are you in favor of the union? Did you sign a card? Are you going to vote for the union in the election next week? Those are all considered unlawful interrogation. You're not allowed, supervisors aren't allowed to, it's called surveillance. They're not allowed to watch employees if they're engaging in union activities. It's called unlawful surveillance. So there are certain things that supervisors can and cannot do. There's a lot that they can do. There's a lot that they can say. Okay, they're allowed to talk about the company and why it's good and your benefits and why it's not good to have a union and union dues and plenty of other things. But they're not allowed to engage in certain things. So we spend a lot of time training supervisors on what they can and cannot say and what they can and cannot do. Typical questions that supervisors get asked having done this for many years, we know what employees ask about, and we teach supervisors those things so that when they get asked them, they're right there with an answer. They don't have to say, we'll get back to you. They have an answer right there. And they also need to understand the signs of unionization. Things start happening with the workforce when employees are considering bringing in a union, and there are certain clues. And supervisors, again, they're on the front line. They're out there. They're seeing and hearing what's happening. If they know what those clues are, then they're going to be able to come back to their supervisor, who goes up the chain of command, to say, I think something's going on with the employees. Employees start to meet together in groups more than they did in the past. Employees might leave during lunch when they didn't before in groups. They may start. If a supervisor walks by, they stop talking. There are certain clues that supervisors need to be aware of about potential unionization that would help you as a company start to act if you knew about it sooner rather than later. So those are things that we also teach supervisors in the training. We teach them about authorization cards, what they mean, and the effects of them, so they can tell the employees that. Access to the employees under the current rules, there are strict rules on a union being able to come on to your property, and there are rules as to when they can and when they can't, and what they can do and what they can't do. Those are things that your supervisors need to know about, so they could, if they see it happening, they can do something about it. And they also need to know what union organizers can say and do. Your supervisors need to know that, because they might hear from one of the employees that a union organizer said something that was illegal. And if your supervisor knows that and hears it, they can then bring it back to upper management, and then something can be done about it. But again, if your supervisors don't know that that's illegal, then they wouldn't do anything about it. So the company's campaign, in my opinion, begins now, and you can't wait until a union organizing campaign begins to prepare your strategy. And the response includes a proactive strategy, auditing, planning, and training. I don't know how many of you have unionized workforces. I would suspect that a fair number of you either don't have unionized workforces, or if some of your workforce is organized, there are other parts that aren't organized. And if you want to keep it that way, because what we know for sure is something is going to change that makes it easier for unions to organize. Too much money was spent by big labor getting Obama elected and also getting Democratic senators and congressmen elected. The statistic that's been thrown around, and labor doesn't dispute it, so it seems to be accurate, is $400 million was spent by labor in the last election to get their people elected. That's a huge amount of money, and they're expecting a payback. And they thought the Employee Free Choice Act was going to be their payback. But it appears that because the business community has come together and has convinced a certain number of senators that it's not in the best interest of this country, it looks like the Employee Free Choice Act won't happen. But those same senators who said they won't vote for the Employee Free Choice Act have already started talking about the compromises that I talked about earlier. So one thing we know for sure is there will be a change, and it will be easier for unions to organize. So employers need to be ready now, doing the things that I talked about, so they're ready if and when this happens. So I'm going to be around. I'm staying for the game and all. So if anyone wants to talk about this later on, I'm the guy in the suit, so and the tie. So just grab me and we can talk about it. Thanks a lot.